Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So once again, I have another story. It seems to have been some hot stuff going on in the south of Brazil in these last few weeks, and today is no different. So many layers to today's story that I have to peel back. So it's intriguing because I'll never run out of material because these type of things go on in Brazil, every day. A lot of people are just blown away that this type of stuff happens there, but it's just funny because Brazil has managed to keep its reputation, like, free of being considered a racist nation for a long time. But, with the advent of social networks, they can't hide anymore. People don't like, the country being portrayed in a certain way. But I'm saying it doesn't necessarily say that Brazil is just a terrible country. It just says, just like any country in the world, Brazil has its issues, and it's better to fess up to that. So today has to do with an incident that happened in the south of Brazil that I wasn't even really concerned about the story. Sometimes I have to see a story a couple of times before I think I want to, cover it or react to it or whatever. And I didn't really consider doing this story until I actually saw sometimes the headline makes all the sense in the world. I heard about this story a couple of days ago, but then the way a certain blog presented it, I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely have to talk about this. So the name of today's video, why are there so many blacks in the movie theater? Woman arrested for racism during the showing of Bob Marley movie in southern Brazil. Okay. So before I get into this, as usual, I'm going to ask you to like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and click on the notification bell. So with that said, let me get directly into the video. What happened here? So what I want to talk about here is the idea of race and place, something that I've talked a lot about on Brazil.com, blackbraziltoday.com. Brazilian society's discomfort with seeing Black people they weren't previously in places where they weren't previously seen in large numbers. I'm going to talk about the question of pardas, again, mixed race people who are socially accepted as white in Brazil, even though they may be of mixed race themselves. Just some videos ago, I presented a story that said, well, pardas or mixed or brown people are considered the majority in Brazil these days. The old Brazilian response to the accusation of racism or something racist coming from a person, and person says, I'm not racist because my fill in the blank is black. My boyfriend is black, my grandfather's black, my mother was black. You know, People always use that. I got an article way back in 2012 where I first talked about this. I'm going to talk about this volleyball player named Kay Alves, who I discussed, I don't know, probably a month and a half, 2 months ago. She played the I'm from a black family also card. That's going to give more context into today's story. And then Brazil, the idea different from the United States. In Brazil, you can still be considered white in the country, even having non-European ancestry. There was a video that I did some months ago. It got a lot of traction because it was this woman who I considered her white, but she understood that when she was in the United States, she was not accepted as white, but rather Latina. And a lot of quote unquote white Brazilians go to the United States and they're hit with this reality. And it's not just based on phenotype. I want to be clear about that. So let me get into this story, just get directly into the story for today. Again, there's so many blacks in a movie theater, says a woman during a screening of a Bob Marley movie in the southern state of Santa Catarina. So this story is by Fernanda Amor Divino. And it says a woman identified as Bruna was arrested for racism during the screening of the film Bob Marley, One Love at the Balneario shopping. That's a mall, basically a movie theater at this shopping mall in the southern state of Santa Catarina. The complaint was made by a man named Jesus Kleno. He was sitting in the next seat and he heard the woman say, quote, before there were no black people in the movie theater, today there are so many. That's what he relayed the woman saying in his presence while they were in the movie theater. So he says, my friend and I went in and sat down, and out of nowhere, the woman started looking at me differently, Kleno said. He says that when he asked her if she was saying that black people couldn't go to the movie, she replied, take that any way you want to take it. Okay. So this is the woman pleading her case outside the theater with these two police officers. Let me see. Okay. So now I want to overdub what Jesus Cleo said.
Ontem eu fui pro cinema, eu e minha amiga, a gente foi no cinema, né? Balneário Shopping.
Yesterday, I went to the
Aí a
cinema.
gente
Me and my
entrou,
friend, we went to the
a
cinema of
gente se
Balneario
sentou
Shopping.
e do
Then we
nada
went
um
in, we
casal
sat
que estava
down,
do
and out of
nosso
nowhere, a
lado
couple that was on
esquerdo,
our left side,
a moça
the girl
começou a
started
me
looking
olhar
at me differently.
diferente,
She
ela me
looked at me
olhou
differently.
diferente. Daqui a pouco ela olhou pra mim e falou: "Olha só,
A little while later, she looked at me and said,
nossa,
"Look, wow, that's funny, isn't
engraçado,
it?
né?
That before
Que
there weren't
antes
so
não
many
tinha
black
tanto
people at
preto
the
no
movies.
cinema,
Now
agora tem
there are
muitos
a
pretos no
lot of
cinema,
black
né?"
people at the movies,
Aí eu
right?"
falei:
Then I
"É sério
said,
isso que você tá
"Is
falando?"
that what you're saying?
A minha
Seriously?"
amiga que estava do
My
lado
friend next to me
levantou
stood
e
up and
perguntou:
asked,
"É sério isso que
"Is
você
that
está
what you're
falando?"
saying?
Ela antigamente não tinha preto no cinema.
So
Hoje
in the
tem.
old
Eu
days, there
falei:
were no
"Então
black people in
você
the
está me
movies.
dizendo
Today there
que
are." I
quer dizer
said,
que no
"So you're
cinema não
telling me
pode
that
ir
black
pessoas
people can't
negras?
go
É
to the
isso mesmo
movies?
que
Is
você
that
está
what you're
dizendo?"
saying?" And she
E
said,
ela: "Não,
"No,
mas
but take it any way you
entenda
like."
como você quiser."
So she's not denying that. I mean, it's like, what do you mean by that? How do you say, wow, geez, why are there so many black people here? Right? So how are you supposed to interpret that? You know, it's all gonna be put into the context, because if you read that one way, another person could have said that and been like, she's just making a commentary. Wow, there's a lot of black people here. But when she said, I mean, I'm trying to see if I would have liked to have been there to see how she actually said it. Like she was taken aback, like, oh my God, where all these black people come from? You know? But it's clear in the way that the guy took what she said, it came across as racist, like, oh my God, what are all these black people doing here? Listen to what she said, because this reiterates videos and articles that I've done in the past. Like, they're seeing black people where they didn't really used to see them before. Now, the other thing I want to point out here is that this is in Santa Catarina. Santa Catarina is one of 3 states in Brazil, in the southern part of Brazil, that are considered the whitest part of the country, where 80% of the people in those 3 states in total classify themselves as white. The other thing is, take a look at this woman. This is the woman that's named, she's reported to be, her name is supposed to be Bruna. And she's saying her comment was taken out of context. I wasn't there. Sometimes it's the way somebody says something that can tell you what their intent was. If somebody says, for example, wow, there's a lot of black people here. If I said that, it'd be just a comment. But depending on how somebody else says it, who doesn't consider themselves black, or they see themselves separate from black people, like, wow, look at all these black people here, that could be something totally different. So I can see what the guy is saying. And at the same time, was her comment taken out of context? It really depends on how she said that. And as we don't have a live video of how she said that, it's hard to say. But the guy, he was there, clearly he took it as a racist statement. Bruna says she was misinterpreted. According to her, her statement came about the cinema being full of black people, and she was referring to the fact that this scenario is rare to see in the south of Brazil, where the public is usually white, which is what I just said. So this is Jesus Cleno, and he says, "Are you saying that black people couldn't go to the movies?" I was there because this movie is also aimed at me. This is Bruno talking, because I'm a non-dark skinned black woman, the daughter of a black man, the granddaughter of black grandparents. I was feeling represented when, in a matter of seconds, everything went down the drain with the hearing of a decontextualized phrase she said in an interview with Jornal Razão. Similarly, Bruno reports that when she was taken out of the movie theater by the security guards, they were very helpful. The security guard thought they would go in there to remove a white albino couple, but when they saw me, he didn't believe me. They told me to show them a photo of my black family, because the police would understand that it had nothing to do with it, she said. So what she's saying is, she's claiming that, and I don't know. I don't know what this woman's family looks like. But she's, like I said, there are millions of Brazilians who do have African ancestry. They do have clearly black people in their family. And I haven't seen this woman's family. I have no idea. This just happened. And she's saying that, well, if you consider what my family looks like, you know that I identify as a black woman. And I'm not sure. There are millions of Brazilians, and this is the changing guard that we're seeing in Brazil these days, about how previously, and I've said this before, in Brazil, different from the United States, if you have acknowledged black ancestry, black people in your family, it doesn't necessarily take away from the possibility of people seeing you as white. But now they're playing the card to say, okay, well, that can't be racist because I have black people in my family, which is absurd. You can have black people in your family and still be just as racist as anybody else. So this harks back to an incident that happened on one of the recent seasons of Big Brother Brazil. One of the women on there was Kay Alvis, and I talked about Kay Alvis before. She's a professional volleyball player who makes more money on her OnlyFans account, right? But when she was on Big Brother Brazil, this incident happened where people felt like she was being racist with one of the black people on the program. Okay. They were calling it religious racism because of the way she reacted and the comments that were made about him having, like, I think he was praying at the time, and they were looking like, oh my God, what is he doing? And so to deflect accusations of racism against her, Kay Alvis says, this is what somebody, these are the subtitles from what she said. You can't borrow anything from Global because you will get a strike. So because I am from a black family also, my grandmother is black. I also have black blood, and this has nothing to do with it, right? Tina, who is the Angolan woman who participated in the program, she says, this is always the first comment or discourse of every and any person that is racist. That's what this says here. So I don't know how Kay Alvis defines herself, okay? I don't think that anybody in Brazil would look at her as white or as black. But what I am saying is that this is a person who I would say fits into that parda category. She can be a parda and then be socially white. There are millions of white people in Brazil who have African or Native American ancestry and still define themselves as white. Nobody on this show defined her as black. But now that she's being accused of being racist, she wants to pull her grandmother, and put the existence of her grandmother on the front to say, well, my grandmother's black, I have black blood, how can I be racist? Well, it's very easy. It's all about the mentality that you have. Just because you have African ancestry doesn't automatically delete you or the possibility that you could be racist. Okay. So just to put all of this into context, again, this is the same. How often have we seen this with Brazilians? It's something that like I said, when you learn about how race works in Brazil, you become accustomed to these type of comments, right? This is Kay Alvis. Okay. This is what the woman looks like. And I'm looking at this woman and I say, no, I wouldn't classify her as white either. But in Brazil, she's probably classified as white. But she can classify herself either way. So I'm saying there are millions of Brazilians who have this particular look. You could look at her and say, okay, I don't see a completely white woman here. And she's acknowledging that she has African ancestry, right? But does that mean people see her as black or white? In Brazil, she can be considered white, even being a parda, meaning brown or mixed race, okay? So that's Kay Alvis talking here. Then, okay, so this all happened because Kay Alvis and Fred Nicasio got into it, and she was accused of being racist because of what she said. The comments between her and some other people who were kind of taken aback by Fred's religious practices. Kay Alvis, she kind of rebuts Fred's accusation, and she defends herself against accusations of religious intolerance by saying, my family is black. Typical. But there's millions of Brazilians who have African ancestry and don't want anything to do with being associated with being seen as black. So then, Kay Alvis, she affirms that she has black blood. And then Tina, again, the Angolan woman, she came back at her like, it's very typical of the racist to always pull the I have black ancestry or black grandmother card. So then I talked about this before. This was in 2012. I think this might have been the first article I talked about this. The latest episode of I'm Not Racist Because Variety. White college professor of African religions calls a black security guard a monkey, right? So this falls into what I've said before, the excuses of why somebody can't be racist. I can't be racist because my girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, best friend is black. I'm not racist because my grandmother, grandfather was black. I'm not racist because I have a black maid. I'm not racist because I love black entertainer, athlete, fill in the blank. Very typical. We see this all the time. Then you have the case of I'm not racist. I've already been with a black guy. Okay. How many times have we heard that? Just because somebody's willing to get down with somebody black, does that automatically say that they can't be racist? I don't think so. Then from that same case, this was a girl who was caught in the audience at a soccer game calling a black goalie a monkey and got caught on camera. And she went through a whole lot of drama because of this. Her friends came out and supported her. She's not racist. She has black friends. Okay. Then just several types of different cases. This redhead guy was trying to get into a university through affirmative action, which allows black, brown, and indigenous people to, get more points and to be able to qualify to get into the university. This guy has pale skin and red hair, and he's going to pull up my grandmother is black card, right? This guy was kind of funny. He insulted the singer Ludmilla. she's a disgusting in. Says he's not racist because he has a black grandfather, but I'm looking at this guy like, so you not black yourself, bruh? Then putting into context also, as I said, Rio Grande do Sul, Santa Catarina, and Paraná are three of the whitest states in Brazil. It's 80% white. People classify themselves as white in those three states. Now, the other thing I want to point out here is a lot of white Brazilians, and it's funny because Brazil's reputation says we're all mixed here. So we don't have any race problems, which is an absolute lie. But there are plenty of white Brazilians who also want the image of the country to be whitened. So Xuxa is one of the most famous women in Brazil. She's one of the richest women in Brazil, blonde. She was once considered Pele's girlfriend. Then she just blew up, became this huge multimillionaire, for all of the kids' TV shows that she had. And people dug up this video that she made some years ago where she says foreigners think Brazil is black and mulatta, but there are blondes too. She wanted it to be known. Like a lot of white Brazilians want people to think like, look, yeah, there are a lot of black and brown people here, but there are also a lot of blondes and redheads, right? Why is that important if everybody's so, proud of the country's mixed race heritage? So then, as I said, the three states in southern Brazil, they all vie for the what would we say, the title of being the whitest state in Brazil. These are the three southern states of the country: Paraná, Santa Catarina, and Rio Grande do Sul. 80% white in this section of the country. This incident that I'm talking about today happened in Santa Catarina, which is one of the three whitest states in Brazil. So then once again, I have this question of race and place is something that I've always talked about here, because as the late Gloria Maria, well-known journalist, she died a few years ago, she says people are not used to seeing black people in chic restaurants and cool places, right? Poor and black don't deserve to be here. 20-year-old black engineering student assaulted and threatened with death by three aggressors on a Marina club boat. Just again, this is the same one I talked about. How could this little neguinha, this little in girl, live in the same building as me? People don't expect black people to live in apartment buildings where the rent is kind of high, and it's just we'll just say it's in a neighborhood that's more of the upper crust variety, right? And there's several articles I have here, like, what are you blacks doing here? Three black men were beaten and electroshocked by security. This was one I did maybe a couple of weeks ago in an episode of Elevator Racism. A black delivery man is prevented from using the building's social elevator by a resident. The idea being here, he's the service boy. You're supposed to take the social elevator, you're supposed to take the service elevator, maids and cooks and cleaning people supposed to take that elevator versus the social elevator. So she's looking at him as being black. He's not supposed to be on that elevator. So we see this all the time. Daiane dos Santos, the first black gymnast to really blow up in Brazil in the early 2000s. And people said to her, why don't you choose a sport that's better for your body type? Black women are not expected to be in gymnastics in Brazil, right? Then you have this case of Eddie Jr., a popular musician, comedian. He lives in an area in Sao Paulo, and he was harassed by this woman and her son. It's like, get out of here, you monkey. What are you doing here? This is Eddie Jr. What are you doing here? It led to a huge protest outside the building. This woman was seen harassing him, yelling racist insults at him. They were found in a security camera. Her son is waiting outside the apartment, Eddie Jr.'s apartment, with a knife waiting on him. They came back. They had a broken bottle. It was ridiculous. So what is the image of Brazil? What's the reality? And what's the stereotype, right? What's the image that Brazil wants to present? And then what's the reality? Because that's why I'm exposing this type of stuff, because people don't think this happens in Brazil, which leads back to a video that I just recently did by a well-known social activist named Frei Beto, when he says, now there are black people in nice places, and that bothers the racist, says activist Frei Beto. So the story from today, I'm just adding to it, because what I'm saying is this happens in Brazil all the time. The attitude is that black people don't belong in certain areas, they don't belong in certain job positions. They're not supposed to have certain job titles. They're not supposed to live in chic neighborhoods, eat in chic restaurants. This happens all the time. So wanted to know what you all thought about today's video. Once again, why are so many blacks in the movie theater, what this woman said? I mean, I'm saying, don't know if she considers herself white. Don't know if she's playing I have a black family. I got black blood. She's playing that card. or if she's always looked at Black people in this way. It's hard to say, but curious to know, what do you guys think about this particular situation? Drop a comment in the comment section. Let's get a discussion going. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, click on that notification bell so you'll know when I put up new videos. And with that said, I'm going to end the video here and request that you all come back. Check out the next video that I post.